Hey guys, welcome to another TFL Buddy review, except this time you are my buddy. And I'm here in beautiful Sedona, Arizona with the brand new Mercedes-Benz GLB. Now this is their new-ish entry-level crossover, and I actually like the vehicle a lot. And I'll tell you why I like it, because sometimes cars have that Goldilocks quality, and this one certainly does. And what I mean by that is it's not too big, it's not too small, it's just right. Now it's got a wheelbase of 114 inches, which is actually relatively big. And there's a secret that you can get with this car that I'll tell you about in a second. And in this video, as always, we're gonna do a walk around, we're gonna see how much room it has, we're gonna talk about the interior. We're actually gonna take it a little bit off-road because it is a crossover and it is all-wheel drive. And then I'm gonna give you a rating. I'm gonna say buy it, lease it, rent it, or forget it. So let's get started with the back and show you what makes this special. Now this is a very small Mercedes, like I said, a wheelbase of 114 inches, but there's something interesting hiding back here. Unfortunately, it's not in this one, but for $850, you can get a third row seat. That's right, a third row in basically a B-class Mercedes-Benz crossover. Now this one, of course, doesn't have the third row. These are early pre-production units, and I asked Mercedes about the third row, and they said they haven't built any yet with that third row. But look at all the room. And part of the reason for all that room is because it's very tall. This is a very tall upright vehicle, and Mercedes says that it has 38 inches of legroom, which is a lot, and 41 inches of headroom, which is also a lot. So big, tall, wide vehicle, giving you kind of that upright stance. It a little bit reminds me of the Subaru Forester. So let's sit in the back seat. Once again, I'm sitting behind myself, and we'll see how much room I have. This is very upright right now, but let's take a look. Dual sunroofs, really nice. Look at that. Plenty of knee room, plenty of headroom, even with the second sunroof. And keep in mind, guys, I am 6'2", so I am pretty tall. So I've got the seat pretty far back. And that's why I like this car, because, you know, for a car that starts at, and let me look at my notes here just so I get this right, I don't want to steer you wrong. For a car that starts at 36,602 wheel drive or 38,604 wheel drive, this is a pretty good deal. Of course, this one costs a little bit more, and we'll get to that in a second, but let's pop the hood and show you what's under the hood. Of course, you guessed it. You know what's under the hood. It's a 2-liter turbo with 221 horsepower and 258 pound-foot of torque. And Mercedes will tell you that this car will do 0 to 60 in just under 7 seconds, or 6.9 seconds. So it's relatively torquey, it's relatively powerful, and it's relatively quick. I mean, 7 seconds for a small crossover is nothing to be ashamed of. I do, like I say, like the design. You can see there's a little front-facing camera here, which is always nice when going off-road. Unfortunately, this car does not have a locking rear diff or any serious off-road credibility. But let's go inside and let me show you the interior of the vehicle. Now, as always, I've got the Monroney right here, and like I said, it starts at about 36,000, but this one is 57,470 as tested. You know, and you're paying for things like $1,450 for the black leather. You've got the driver's assistance package, which is $2,250, and that's, of course, all the safety tech, so things like blind spot monitoring, autonomous braking. And if you look at this vehicle on the inside, it's very similar to the car I reviewed yesterday, which was the CLA 250. It's got what Mercedes calls a surfboard dash here, so you've got a very wide touchscreen dash. There are 4 ways to actually interact with this Mercedes. First, this is a touchscreen. Secondly, you've got your little controls right here. Thirdly, you've got the touchpad right here, which is another way to do it. And then fourthly, and this is going to be interesting because I had a little problem with this, you can also use Mercedes-Benz's newest MBUX, which is their new interface. And MBUX basically allows you to communicate with the car saying, hey Mercedes, and it answers. And if I say Mercedes while I'm on this test drive, it's going to get very annoying. So just like yesterday, I'm going to call this car Ralph. So when I say Ralph, you know that I mean Mercedes-Benz. So let's take Ralph for a ride, and let's see how Ralph does in a little bit of light off-roading. And you may be wondering, why am I off-roading a car that doesn't have a locking rear diff? Well, first let me show you, if you can see it, something over here. It does have different drive modes. So there's of course individual, there's sport, there's comfort, there's eco, and this is the one I'm looking forward to, off-road. And being here in Sedona, there is a lot of off-roading here. So I've got a little bit of a rough road ahead of me. It's more than a rough road. Actually, I just saw a side-by-side going down it. So we're gonna go down maybe 50 feet. I'm gonna ask my videographer to jump out so that you guys can see how the car does when there's a little bit of articulation involved. I do like this interior. I think it's very modern. It's very kind of now. These are really satisfying knobs to turn, the way they click. Just a really nice interior. Lots of very expensive, it is an expensive car, touches in here. And in general, just, you know, a car that is right up my alley. So keep that in mind. I may be a little biased, but I do love crossovers that are kind of crossover looking and upright and bold and ready to get dirty and muddy. So we're going to go a little bit off-road, see how this does. I don't have any really off-road features, so it doesn't have great doesn't have great approach, departure, or necessarily road height, so I don't want to break anything on this early test drive. We'll have to wait to take it up maybe Rocky Top when we get it to Colorado to actually show you how well it does off-road. But this road does get pretty rough pretty quick, so let's take it just a little bit down, and then I'll have the videographer get out and you can see how the vehicle will do in an off-road situation. Because to me, half the fun of having a crossover is that you can take it up to your snowy cabin, or you can take it up to your off-road trail and actually do a little bit of light camping with it. So let me unlock the door when we hop out, and we'll show you how it articulates. Now, as you guys know, Mercedes has really what is the only off-roader in the business, at least if you're in the German car business, because Audi really doesn't have any true off-roaders, and BMW doesn't really have any true off-roaders. And that is, of course, the G-Class. So I'm hoping that Ralph, so again, it's talking to me, cancel. I'm hoping that Ralph spent a little bit of that off-road cred that they developed for the G-Wagen on this car. And, you know, once again, don't have the right tires, don't have the right ground clearance, but nevertheless, it's doing really well. And one of the things that makes an off-roader feel special off-road is when you feel like it's well screwed together, like it's made of a solid piece of metal instead of various bits and chunks. And this one certainly feels like it's that way, because I really feel like it's got the chassis rigidity to handle, you know, this slight off-roading. But I also feel like I'm in a $57,000 car, and I don't necessarily want to break it. So I'm not going to go too far down this road. I was just passed by a side-by-side. I think I'm going to turn around. Yeah, I think I'm going to turn around right here. So I'm going to turn this guy around and then take it back before I take it to Mercedes. Oh, doesn't like that. Before I take it to Mercedes in a bunch of different pieces. And I do have really good cameras. Why don't you come on and we'll show them the cameras. That's another annoying thing, of course, is the proximity control. But check out these different cameras that we have here. They're really good. So you've got this top-down bird's eye view. This is the one behind me, and then you can, of course, go and you can change it. So that's what's behind me. That's next to me. That's my two mirrors. That's directly in front of me. That one is like almost 180 degree in front of me. And right now I'm going to use this one because I'm backing up. So it's super handy to have these cameras, and it makes off-roading much less I was going to say painful, but really the right word is maybe costly, because it's easy to break stuff, and with a camera you know exactly what you're about to hit before you hit it. And if you look up here, you'll see that there's a Wrangler coming, so you know there's a little bit of off-road cred that this Mercedes does bring to the table. Now, I don't think that most people are going to be taking their GLBs off-road like that Rubicon, but give it, like, I'm going to say at least 5 years, and I bet you somebody's going to lift this, and we're going to have a vehicle that does become an off-roader. Because usually it takes at least 5 years, maybe even 7 years, before actually people, you know, have depreciated the car enough to actually feel like it's off-road worthy. Now, some of the other notable things, of course, is I have paddle shifters here. I have a big steering wheel. I've got this enormous sunroof, and you know, place to keep my phone. Very nice vertical line of controls, and I think Mercedes has done a good job in actually giving you just the hard buttons that you want without all the ones that you don't want. That's always a very interesting tightrope that the manufacturer walks to decide whether everything should be virtual or everything should be real button-like. And the last thing I'm going to do, of course, is I'm going to take this car around, get back outside, and we're going to let you know if you should buy it, lease it, rent it, or forget it. At least that's what these reviews are usually about. So let's park it and let's do a final. Oops. She's not happy for some reason. Maybe she thinks this car is too nice to be out here, or maybe she thinks I'm getting in her way. All right, let's take one final look at it. So there you have it, the newest Mercedes-Benz, let's call it family hauler slash off-roader. Now, Mercedes says that probably two kinds of people will buy this car. First, young families who are moving up, say, from the CLA to something a little bit bigger, and because of that third row option, you can get 7 people in this car, which is actually pretty amazing. Or Mercedes thinks that empty nesters will buy it. Let's say your kids are gone and you've got 2 big golden retrievers and you need something that can carry those people and not spend a whole heck of a lot of money on it. Now, I know it starts at around $37,000, $38,000, and I'm afraid that those vehicles probably aren't going to be easy to find, because, as you know, dealers like to buy the more expensive, more better option vehicles because they make more money on it. But in the 30s, I say definitely buy it. At $50,000+, lease it. Well, guys, thanks for watching. Remember, on Fridays on this channel, we answer all your car and truck buying questions at noon Pacific time, so be sure to come here on Monday or Friday and have your questions answered. As always, this is Roman reporting for the Fast Lane Car. Check out tflcar.com for more news, views, and Mercedes-Benz GLB reviews. See you guys later. Ciao. What was that?